Welcome back. So today I'm going to go ahead and go over some of the basic commands in the Linux terminal. So there'll be others. There are around 3,000 Linux commands, something like that. I'm not sure, was it actually 2 or 3? It doesn't matter. You don't need to know all of them. It's unimportant. You need to know the ones that you will use. First of all, you need to know the basic ones, and then you move on from the basic ones to the ones that are fit for your purpose. And then over time, you basically learn more and more and more and more. And I don't think that there are that many people who know all of them. But it doesn't matter because a lot of them you will never need or use, as they are commands built for specific purposes. Anyway, so the very first command that we will need to learn is the cd command. So these are the set of commands which will help you with the navigation. So you have the cd command, which stands for change directory. Now, pretty much almost all the commands have manual pages. So you type in man cd, and this gives you a ton load of information in regard to the cd command and all of the arguments that can be passed to it. It gives you the syntax, what it is, how it is used, etc. You press Q to actually quit it. Why is the screen going dark? Okay. Anyway, the arguments that are passed to the commands, well, I'm not going to do the demo on that with the CD, I'll do it with the ls, but here let me just show you how the CD works. If you press CD and if you type in slash, I don't know, home, and then just press tab, it's going to autocomplete. So tab autocompletes commands. If I press tab twice, it's going to give me the list of possibilities, but I can just type in CD, and now I am in that folder. I am in that directory. And if I type in pwd, which stands for print working directory, and press enter, that's going to tell me exactly where I am at the moment. So this is my working directory. Another command is ls, which lists the contents of the current directory. ls can be passed argument. You can pass arguments. So you pass arguments with a dash, and then you specify which argument you wish to pass. And if I state ls-l, that will tell me that will give me a detailed listing in terms of the file. So it will give me permissions, who is the owner, which group owns it, what is the file name, etc. You have some other information here, but I'll explain it shortly. You don't need to know all of it. If I type in another argument, which is h, it's going to tell me the exact size of each file in a human readable format. So 4.8 megabytes, 64 kilobytes, and so on and so forth. Not all of them are listed for some strange reason. It doesn't really matter. Most of the time, it's going to work out just fine. It's probably working out just fine. I just can't see why it's not printing it out the way I wanted it to. But -h in general gives you the human readable format. You can also type in man ls, and it's going to give you a lot of listing in terms of all the arguments that can be passed. You have a serious amount of them. Like, quite literally here, it stands for human readable with -l or -s print. Human readable sizes, 1 kilobyte, 234 megabytes, 2 gigabytes, etc. It's gonna tell you the sizes. Anyway, so I'm just gonna go ahead and press Q to quit this. One of the other commands that you can use is the uname-a, and that's gonna, -a stands for all in general, and that's gonna tell you well, this is my domain, this is the host name, and then this is the kernel version here, and I'm running Fedora 23. You might have done, 24 is out, I will update 24, but no significant difference in terms of what we are going to be doing. 22, 23, 24, and probably 25 will be almost exactly the same for our purpose. If not exactly the same. I mean, there aren't any real differences there that would affect us. Anyway, if you type in uname-r, another argument, that's just going to give you the kernel. So let's go ahead and clear that. You clear it with Control L or by typing in the command clear to clear the screen. There's also a dice command which is called history, history, and it gives you a listing of all the commands that you've typed in. Well, at least 1,000 of them, or however many you've actually configured. You configure it from here. You just go File, Settings, Edit Current Profile. And this is also where you can configure your terminal, how you wish it to look like. So if you go into Appearance, you can like set these colors. I prefer to use this one as it is light on my eyes, or this one. Generally, in between one of the two I pick. It doesn't really matter for me because it's just something, because I spend a lot of time in front of the computer. I always choose the colors that suit my eyes the best. And you see it says scrolling 1,000 lines. So you can alter this any way you like. Actually, let's put it back to the white one, as it is better for you, because you can see it better. Okay, so let's clear the screen. Next up, we're gonna go ahead and take a look at chmod and chown and touch. So if I type in touch and if I type in test, this is going to create a file test. If I type in ls, test is there. There's also ll, a short version of ls-l, and it's still going to be there. As you can see it, it's test is here and it's here. If I press Control to clear the screen. Now if I type in ll space test, I just want to get a listing for a particular file. I can see that the chronic, which is the user that owns the file test, and the group chronic owns the file test as well. These here, dash stands for a file. You have a D, which stands for a directory, and L, which stands for a link. I think you have a few more of them for pipes, etc., but doesn't really matter now. We'll get into pipes when we start messing around with traffic down along the merry road. So you have the first three signify the permissions for the user. The second three signify the permissions for the group. And the last three signify the permissions for the world, so what anybody else can do to the file. And these are called discretionary access controls. This has nothing to do with mandatory access controls, which is SC Linux. So this is just the first layer of security. If you can chmod and you can change the permissions by typing in a set of numbers like this. 777 is the global set of permissions. I would strongly suggest that you go out onto the net and you take a look at chmod and man chmod, because it's such an extensive, well, maybe not that much of an extensive command, but you see these permissions, they have a logic of their own. So chmod, if you type in like 777, that's a global mode, but you can also type in 055 or something like that, and that's gonna enable you to give different permissions. But you need to take a look at these numbers and what each one of them represents here. Actually, let me just go ahead and look it up for you. File permissions. There was a very good explanation. There's a very good explanation on the net out there for this. It's not really an explanation of the chmod. It just gives you the listing on the numbers. And the listing on the numbers is the thing that I'm looking for now. Yep, there we go. So if you 4 stands for readable, 2 stands for writable, and 1 stands for executable. But you see these R, W, and X? Well, they can also be used, and I can do just chmod. Instead of typing in numbers, I can just type in +X to test. Yep. And if I press enter and if I do ll test again, you will see that the user has gained execute permissions, and that the group has gained execute permissions, and that the world has gained execute permissions, which is like really bad, which is not something that we generally want. But there's also something, let me just open up a text editor here for you. And by the way, VMI is the text editor. You won't have it by default. Type in DNF. And actually, no, I'll talk about the DNF later. You can just type in VI. That's the one that you will have. And with VI, type in tests, I don't know, 0, 1. And let me just go ahead and copy paste these. I don't actually need to do this. This is just from my notes. +2 + 1. Okay. Read. I don't know why the copy pasting didn't work out there. Sometimes it doesn't. Maybe because I'm stupid or something. So 7. It's actually 4 + 2 + 1. So read, write, execute. 4 is read, 2 is write, 1 is execute. So 4 + 2 + 1, basically, yeah, that's equal to 7. So the next one is basically 6, which is 4 + 2, that's read and write. Here, let me just open up another term, a new window, and let me demonstrate that a little bit further. I know it can look a little bit scary, but believe me, you'll figure it out with great ease. So ls test, right? ll test, there you go. So it has all these permissions. And one number, so like, yeah, there we go. So look, if you specify one number, so chmod, and the first number will signify the permissions for the user. So if I don't want to give any permissions to the user, I will type in 0 because that's none of this. If I want to give write and execute permissions to the user, I will type in 3. If I just want the user to have read permissions, I will type in 4. Now the next set of permissions is for the group. What sort of permissions would I like to give to the group? Well, let's say that the group can read from it, so 0, 4. And the last permission to the world shall be 0 as well, so test. So this, you're going to have 3 dashes here, and you're going to have a dash here, and it will be, it will, let me just see it, read, write, execute. Right, you will have 2 dashes here, and this will be readable. So let's see how that actually changes. Let's test, and there we go. So nobody has any permissions other than the group, which actually has only read permissions. I type in cat test permission denied, because this particular user within this group does not have that permission. If I was some other user within the same group, I would be able to mess around with it. Let's go ahead and do a little bit more. So chmod, if I would like to give permission to that particular user to read it and the group, I would just type in 4 for the user to read and 4 for the group to read, and 0 because I do not wish to allow anything to the world. And I type in test, and I type in ll test. There we go. Now the user and the group can actually just read through it, but they cannot write anything to it, nor can they execute anything, nor can anybody else. And if I type in cat test, I can access it. Cat is another command which actually flushes out the contents of a file. Let me just see if I can find a file. There we go. If I type in cat x.log temp, you see this is going to cat out everything that's in it. It's just going to push the contents of the file onto the screen. So very useful command that we will use extensively. This is how the permissions, the discretionary access controls work. I'm sure you figured it out. If you didn't, take a look at it. I mean, it's not really that complicated. They've actually made it extremely simple. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and take a look at some other commands as well. Let me just go ahead and increase the size of this. You have move. So move command actually moves a file or a folder from one path to the other. So if I have test, and if I move it to home chronic documents, it's gonna be moved from that folder to the other one. And if I type in home chronic documents test, it's going to be here and it will retain all the permissions that it had previously. Another command is rm. It's going to remove write protected regular empty file. Yes, goodbye, that will remove it. If you wish to remove a folder, you need to type in -rf and it's going to actually remove a folder. Be very careful with move command, with rm command, which stands for remove, because once you have deleted something, there really isn't any real way of getting it back. So it's not like in Windows where you put it into a trash can or something like that. Once you have deleted it with rm, it's gone. Say goodbye to it. Never gonna see it again. There are a few others, but I'm gonna cut the tutorial here and we'll come back in the follow-up.